All right, before we jump in, I want to get everyone in the right headspace as well for what I'm about to present on. So we have some more audience participation, if you'll bear with that. I want you to return to what you wrote on your name tags when you came in. Some of you would have written about a superpower. Some of you would have written about what our planet needs. And what I'd like you to do is have a think about these questions. Now, these were written from the superpower perspective, but ultimately what I want you to think about is what is preventing you from using your superpower for good or better? Or what's preventing you, what's the barrier for using it in a sustainability context? And if you've answered the question what the planet needs, what's preventing you being the person that provides that need from fixing that problem? I'm going to give you all a minute now to talk to the people next to you. If you're talking to someone that you don't know, if you're sitting next to someone you don't know, maybe talk to them rather than the person that you know that's on the other side. But I'll give you a minute from now. Thank you for taking the opportunity to share your thoughts with each other. It's difficult sometimes to acknowledge these barriers. I find it particularly when the barriers are created by us or by yourself. What do you need to stop doing, or what is in your way, is the first question in a model I've developed during my time in the fellowship to guide the creation of sustainability strategies that are sustainable. I'm going to return to that very soon, but first I wanted to provide some context, as promised by Lynn, as to how I got here. At the end of 2022, my career in the classical music sector was on a pretty good trajectory. I had landed what I thought was my dream job in artistic planning. I was performing freelance as a French horn player in opera pits and in orchestras. I was getting some fantastic opportunities to travel and tour internationally with orchestras as well. And I was taking on leadership roles, including chairing a board. So it might be a little surprising that I chose this time just when I was really hitting my stride in the sector to quit all of this and completely change track. The truth is, I was burning out. I was no longer enjoying the work or the opportunities. And 2 years of climate and pandemic impacts on my work and personal life were starting to take a real toll. So off the back of some previous study I'd done in sustainability, I applied for a job at Sustainability Victoria, and I enrolled in a Master of Environment. I wanted a complete change. Goodbye art sector. Hello saving the world. Yeah? I had intended my new role in stakeholder engagement at SV to be the perfect transferable skills bridge into a career in policy and science and conservation once I got further into my master's. Maybe if I kept that course, I might have done some really cool stuff. However, when I got into the fellowship in July 2023 and started really unpacking what it meant to be a leader in sustainability, I discovered, much to my initial annoyance, that all of those creative, communicative, operational art sector skills that I'd meant to kind of sweep under the rug in preference for my grand, clean slate, they're exactly the skills we need to address the wicked problems that we're facing at the moment. And then it slowly started to hit me. There's probably a lot of people in a similar situation. Highly skilled, experienced individuals working in communities and businesses who have exactly what we need, not in the future, but right now. I started thinking, how do we guide them through the complicated mess of our wicked problems to find their node or place in the complex systems of the solutions? Systemic problems require systemic solutions. So how do we help people find their role in the system and leverage it to affect change? This new perspective changed how I approached all of my studies. When presented with an ecological restoration model last semester, which is a model for guiding the restoration of degraded landscapes to functional ecosystems, I saw an opportunity to apply the same thinking to the regeneration of our social and cultural systems. I started having conversations with colleagues, classmates, fellows, and friends, pretty much anyone who would listen to all of my questions and hopefully answer some of them, and started talking about regenerative communities, about the regenerative principles of circular economy, and about the pathways we need to get there. Something all these conversations had in common was the emphasis on thinking upstream, the need to redesign our systems to avoid and prevent waste and extraction instead of constantly chasing our tail, offsetting or inventing new solutions to deal with our waste. So we come finally to the initial results of those conversations and that work, what I call the regenerative continuum. It's a guide to help shape sustainability strategy in a sustainable way. It's intentionally simple on the surface, but encourages engagement with complexity. It starts with the hardest question. which we asked earlier. What do you need to stop doing? It's tempting for many to start at the other end of the continuum, to ask, what more can I do? How do I sustain it? But after working in resource-poor arts organisations for over a decade, in my experience, that kind of thinking leads to a lot of tails wagging the dog. The first step enforces a moment of stillness. A moment to interrogate not just what we're extracting from the world around us, but what we're extracting from ourselves and our community. The answers to this first question help create space, or additional capacity, to leverage existing skills, knowledge, and capability as you progress further along the continuum to improve, extend, and sustain your positive impact. So what's next? I delivered a pilot workshop with the model at the Commons Co-working Precinct in Collingwood last month. I'm now planning to roll out more in-depth workshops to test the utility of this model over the next few months. I was fortunate to use some of my Wattle funding to undertake further training in facilitation and co-design this year, and I see this model acting as a useful tool to guide co-design of programs and communities seeking to become more sustainable and regenerative by enabling agency and self-determination in the design of their transition strategies. I'd love to connect with additional communities, businesses, and groups interested in applying the principles of this model to their work, so please reach out on LinkedIn if you'd like to get in touch. And my final message: before you can be more, be better. Before you can be better, make space. What do you need to stop doing? Because when you find yourself at the bottom of a hole, the first thing you need to do to get out is stop digging.